Hey, everybody, I'm Buck Belue. Welcome to Extra Innings on the 680 The Fan YouTube channel. Today is Thursday. Just got off the air doing the Buck Belue Show and got plenty more to talk about. We appreciate you hanging out with us here. Wanted to talk about Stetson Bennett and a little more on the Georgia Bulldogs. Stetson Bennett has got to be facing borderline exhaustion, I would imagine, right now. He obviously helped lead Georgia to their second consecutive national championship, an undefeated season. We're talking about a 15-game grind that started really way back in the summer and just wrapped up. And then he went right into handing out chicken over there in Athens at the restaurant. And boy, that looked like a big day for Stetson as soon as he got back from L.A. And then at that point, you had to head right on into the national championship parade and celebration, where there was a lot of drama associated with Stetson. As far as that goes, you know, there was some complaining about Stetson not paying enough attention to the fans along the parade route because he was looking at back and forth during the parade. As we find out later, he's just being the DJ for the other guys in the car and dialing up some music for the boys there along the parade route. I'm going to give him a pass for that. And then during the stadium interview with DJ Shockley, we had Stetson bring up his great motivator through the years, the doubters, the critics that got after him a little bit through the years. It was a time he felt like he needed to point that out, how he got the best of them and proved them wrong, baby. And I certainly don't have any problem with that either. And then immediately, Stetson and the other Bulldogs and the Bulldog Nation were trying to deal with the mourning of losing a teammate and a staff member. I'm sure we're all, if you're like me, you're still sort of trying to get over that and probably never will. But Stetson right in the middle of that as the captain of the team. And now, right now, Stetson's facing the grind of an NFL pre-draft process that is going to be a grind, too. And I leaned on Chris Mortensen of ESPN Insider, that's been a big part of my show for over 15 years here on The Fan. Chris Mortensen leaned on him to try to get to the bottom of why Stetson Bennett had not received an invitation to the Senior Bowl this coming up at the end of the month over in Mobile, Alabama. And we're trying to get to the bottom of why in the world he wouldn't have gotten an invitation to go down and try to impress the NFL personnel guys. Mort was able to find out that the final invitation for the quarterbacks, typically they'll bring 6 quarterbacks into the game, 3 on each team. And they've got 5 players, quarterbacks, that have already accepted the invitation. I'll talk about them in a second. But there was an invitation that's been handed out to Kentucky's Will Levis, who has not given them an answer on whether he will be accepting the invitation or not. Levis reportedly banged up during the football season, trying to get over some injuries. And look, he's being forecast as a first-round draft pick. So, you know, the Senior Bowl would love to have him down in Mobile, but he's not willing to give them an answer yet. So, as I understand it, Mort's telling me that if Levis says he is not coming to the Senior Bowl, then Stetson Bennett will get that invitation and have the opportunity to go down and impress these NFL scouts. So that's the holdup on that. Why would he want to go to the Senior Bowl? Well, it's pretty obvious. He wants to impress these NFL scouts and improve his draft stock. And right now, Stetson's being regarded as a 5th or 6th round pick, or possibly an undrafted free agent. So it'd be worthwhile for him to get on down there, show these guys that he can play with the best players at the Senior Bowl and improve his draft stock. Max Duggan from TCU that you saw in the national championship game has gotten an invitation, and he will be down there. Jaron Hall, a quarterback out of BYU that has played a lot of football for the Cougars there, he's got an invitation. He will play. Jake Haener from Fresno State is a quarterback, will be there. Clayton Tune out of Houston with the Cougars program is another quarterback. And then somebody that I'm sure most everybody doesn't have any idea who he is, Tyson Bogent, is a guy out of Shepherd College. Probably hadn't heard of Shepherd College. But Tyson Bajent, a Harlan Hill Trophy winner. You know, Brian Finneran won that award back in the day, has accepted an invitation, and he will be there. So the holdup is Will Levis. They're waiting on him to decide whether he's going to come down or not. I'm just going to guess that Will Levis is not coming. I mean, right now he's already being regarded as probably a top 10 pick in the first round. So with that in mind, he could probably only hurt his draft stock by going down and performing. So I'm going to guess Will Levis isn't going to make it, and Stetson Bennett will get that invitation and have the opportunity to go and play at the Senior Bowl. If you're wondering about the two top-rated quarterbacks in the draft, you got Bryce Young out of Alabama, C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State. Well, they're not seniors. This is the Senior Bowl, so you got to be a senior to participate in that. So wishing Stetson the very best and hoping that Levis will back out and give him an opportunity to go and shine down in Mobile, Alabama. There's some other big stories out there as far as the Georgia football program goes, beside the mourning of the two Georgia, the staff member and the player, Willock and LaCroix. And my thoughts and prayers go out to their families and the Bulldog Nation as they try to deal with the loss. I feel sort of bad, not talking about that enough, but, sort of my job to talk about the sports-related topics. And so we're going to go ahead and try to do that. The big news today, overnight coming out of Athens, is Georgia receiver A.D. Mitchell entered the transfer portal, and all indications are A.D. Mitchell will transfer to the University of Texas and play for the Longhorns. And I've got three reasons why that he's doing that, has decided to do that. Number one, his family has relocated down in Texas, and so that's where his family's located. And as I understand it, A.D. Mitchell has a young son, I believe it is, that has been recently born and is also there with his family in Texas. So you can certainly understand why he'd want to be closer to them. At least I do. Number two, word on the street was A.D. Mitchell got his NIL deal from Georgia and then took that and presented it to both USC and Texas and said, hey, guys, can you beat this? And look, I'm not sure about USC, but I guarantee you Texas, they've got some deep pockets at UT, baby. I mean, they've got more money than some of these NFL teams have. So I would imagine Texas beat that NIL offer that came his way at Georgia. And then the third reason is under Steve Sarkisian, he's probably and most likely going to touch the ball a lot more at Texas than he would have touched it coming back and playing at Georgia. Sarkisian wants to throw it, probably going to be throwing it 40 times a game. Not sure how the offense is going to break down at Georgia in the upcoming year with the quarterback job up for grabs. But the ball coming his way, getting in his hands, being targeted and having more catches and better stats would help him with his NFL draft stock. And with 2 national championship rings, that's probably the biggest item on his list moving forward. Now, I wouldn't be worried about Georgia's receiving core looking ahead to the 2023 season. A.D. Mitchell play the X receiver spot, and that is going to be the receiver that's lined up wide outside the numbers. The X receiver spot typically is one of the bigger receivers on the team, stature-wise. And you look at Georgia, Rosemy Jack-Saint is coming back, and he's a legitimate X-wide receiver. You've got Ra Thomas that is transferring in from Mississippi State, who really thrived in Mike Leach's system there. He's 6'1", 190, so he's another big receiver. And you've got a freshman that Brian McClendon, the new receiver coach at Georgia, recruited, a 5-star guy, Tyler Williams, A lot of things expected out of him, good things. He's 6'3", 200. So, just looking at who replaces A.D. Mitchell, I would have those three guys at the X wide receiver spot with a good chance to replace him. The slot receiver is also well taken care of. You got Ladd McConkey that has decided to come back and play another year at Georgia. You've got Dominic Lovett, another transfer that is coming in from Missouri that will play the slot receiver spot. He's 5'10", 175. And you'll typically see the slot receivers in these offenses that are undersized as far as the receivers go, that thrive with their quickness from short to intermediate, working the middle part of the field against safeties and nickel corners and linebackers, and really taking advantage of the big nature of those players by being undersized, quick, and fast. And McConkey and Lovett look like they'll be guys getting the reps there at the slot receiver spot. The third wide receiver spot in a three-wide receiver set, Arian Smith looks like a guy you'll plug in right there, who is a dangerous receiver heading downfield. So Dylan Bell and Jackson Meeks got exposed to big-time football this past year as young players. They might be ones that push for more playing time in the upcoming season. So I wouldn't worry about Georgia's receiving core without A.D. Mitchell in there. The final thing that I wanted to talk to you about today as far as Georgia football goes would be the offensive line and what that looks like in the 2023 season. Broderick Jones, the starter at left offensive tackle, has entered the NFL draft early and looks like a first-round pick. Just a phenomenal job he did this year, especially in pass protection. And that's what these NFL scouts are looking for, some of these offensive tackles that can pass protect and protect the quarterback. So Georgia will be without Broderick Jones in the upcoming year. Xavier Truss got most of the starts at the left offensive guard spot, and looks like he will return and most likely man that spot at left offensive guard. And again, Devin Willock got some of the snaps there at left guard. And again, just want his family to know that they're in my thoughts and prayers moving forward. You got Tate Ratledge returning as the starter at right offensive guard. Warren McClendon has moved on after some outstanding performances over the previous 3 years, moving on and testing the waters in the NFL draft. And so Georgia will plug in Amarius Mims at one of these tackle spots, and I think he's the next great Georgia offensive lineman. Mims, a phenomenal player, huge, and I think might be a guy that could slide over to left tackle. If not, will start at the right tackle spot, and he looks like a future first-round pick. Now, that leaves the center position, which is huge on any football team. The center, one of the most valuable players on a team, and Cedric Van Pran, as we go on the air here today, is still up in the air about what he's going to do, whether he's going to enter the NFL draft early or whether he's going to come back for another year at the University of Georgia. The best I can tell, researching this a little bit, is Van Pran looks like either the second or the third rated center. If he did join the NFL draft, would be the second or third center off the board. And so that would transition, that would mean that he's probably a second or a third round draft pick. And so he most likely could improve that stock by coming back for one more year at Georgia. He was already a captain this year as a sophomore, and he could be the captain of the team by returning. So that will be something to pay close attention to in the coming days. This news will probably break over the next 48 hours or so. And so Georgia and Stacy Searles, the offensive line coach, is going to know what they're facing there. But I don't think Georgia has anybody ready to step in and play at the level that Cedric Van Pran has played at this past season. Jared Wilson is a possibility. He might be the next guy up. As far as who replaces or fills one of the other offensive tackle spots, I've heard a lot of glowing reports about a young player. Ernest Green is his name, 6'4", 330 pounds, out of California, was a freshman this past season, has fought through a back injury, I believe it was, so he didn't get as much work as he probably needed in this freshman year at Georgia, but looked really good working with the second team last year on the G-Day game. Looked really good, and hearing some really good things about Ernest Green. Look for him to be a guy making some noise, and maybe Mims and Green would be the tackles moving forward in the 2023 season. Those are the three things I had lined up to talk about today. And we're going to do this twice a week here on our 680 YouTube channel. Sit down and go on at length at some of the topics I'm not really able to dive into during a 1-hour show. So looking forward to hanging out with you from week to week and talking about some of the bigger stories that are circulating out there in the Metro Atlanta sports world. It's going to do it for this episode. Appreciate you hanging out with me. Buck Belue here on Extra Innings with the 680 pregame. The 680, The Fan Extra Innings Show. We'll talk to you next week, everybody.